So interpret my voice as Raquel. Look at Raquel's picture on the screen. Raquel says, welcome everyone. My apologies for missing the webinar today since I have been summoned up by my PhD tutor to be at the university at this time. As a Diplo member since 2007, it is always a pleasure to meet new faces and future leaders. And I am glad that Ginger is reading the 20 pages I prepared for you. Just joking, of course, not really 20 pages. It's quite short. We do want to be short so that we can hear your thoughts. Why are we here to talk about remote participation? Well, I guess that's because it is one way to bring into reality many of the principles surrounding Internet governance policy. For example, it brings into action the inclusive, open, and transparent Internet. Who has not heard about these principles before? They are at the core of the Internet, and they are also the goals of e-participation outcomes for collaborative, interactive, and meaningful participation, whoever and wherever you are. Might seem a little abstract to some of you, but let me tell you that since 2008, remote participation has been a reality for the Internet Governance Forum, as well as many of the other organizations involved in Internet governance, ICANN, ISOC, ITU. And today, it is being explored in principle and in practice by UNESCO at the WSIS Plus 10. But remember, this is not a results-driven activity, but it is a learning process, an implementation process, and we learn every day as we go. Our successful experience to implement remote participation at the IGF has been a rich empirical case, which I would like to share with you. And remember that right now I'm Raquel. Year by year, we have built new blocks to construct remote participation, from the selection of an adequate platform to have tools like chat that follow effective treatment of operational issues and the preference for open source options, the local infrastructure to support the video streaming, which requires high and stable bandwidth, familiarizing users with the tools, training sessions, and having a wizard like Bernard to take care of technical issues and to address the questions through a remote moderator. It helps a lot to have captioning in all sessions that are streamed for greater accessibility. And what I would say is one of the best outcomes, hubs, which are local meetings in which the organizer chooses to follow the IGF fully or partially within their own community. So a volunteer from an interested group can get together with 5, 10, 20, or even 100 people. And we do have examples of that, to follow the IGF and to make interventions or have parallel discussions. Just to give you an idea, in 2008, we had 8 hubs registered, and this has been a constantly growing number. The last IGF in Baku, we had 62 hubs following the meeting. That's 62 local meetings in parallel, plus the individuals that are connected on their own. That's an amazing achievement. How does this happen? Well, lots of volunteer work and good energy to get the job done through collaborative work and the determination to be heard. For the last 3 IGFs, we've been taking these inputs and working together to share this learning process through workshops that we've organized each year. In 2011, we, which is the Remote Participation Working Group, together with Diplo, have discussed some principles toward e-participation, which were collaboratively written in an Etherpad page, and I will give you the link later. We've come up with 6 basic draft principles: inclusiveness, which is, of course, the whole idea behind participation and remote participation. Remote moderation should be provided in as many languages as possible. Equality of participation, scale and scalability, accessible platform using open source when possible, and multiple platforms and media should be used for remote participation: web conferencing, webcast, chat, Twitter, social media, whatever media are possible. Are those principles being put into practice? What is being done to effectively include everyone in participation, remote or local? Participation is the key word. Let us know. Let's talk about it, and let's see what we think. I'm back to being Ginger now. That was Raquel's very generous intervention with us, which she prepared before leaving to meet with her advisor. I will now go back into a moderator role, and I would like to hear some of your input. I don't know how many of you have been connected to the WISS Plus 10 in Paris and the world right now. It hasn't been an easy process. It's a learning process, but we really congratulate UNESCO and all those involved in the WISS, including our very own wizard Bernard, for working on so hard on this and trying to make this a reality as we bring precisely those principles into our daily lives. I have right now on the screen the WISS Plus 10 remote participation page. For those of you, I don't know if any of you have joined the sessions today. We were online with the sessions yesterday. Little bit of audio problems, but great participation and ample opportunity for those of us online who wanted to intervene in the session to do so. If you have any comments about that, it would be good to hear them. Feel free to add them to the chat window below, and I'll be looking for your comments. Right now, I don't know if you're aware, there is a, even though the organizers of the WISS Plus 10 did not do a formal attempt to organize hubs, there is actually a hub going on in Berlin, which was organized with FATFA and other groups, and are discussing along with the meeting that's going on in Paris right now. So this is a picture actually from their meeting yesterday, and I invite those of us who are online to do this. For instance, this could be considered a remote hub. We're talking about in parallel with, and we're dealing with the same issues that are going on at WISS Plus 10. As Raquel mentioned already, we have some very important components that will bring remote participation from principles to practice. Inclusiveness, accessibility to the platform, to the internet, how to get involved, and language. Now, one thing, I don't mean to criticize, this is not a matter of the organization, this is UN policy, but for instance, the sessions today and going on in the WISS Plus 10 are in English and in French. They're being broadcast in the language of the presenter. This is a matter of finance. This is economics. We're all restricted by the availability, and we're working on making things more possible. Closed captioning makes things much easier, but unfortunately, WISS has not been able to add this component, but they've made a huge step towards greater participation by implementing remote participation in the first WISS meeting going on right now. We have often had multilingual remote moderation because it's not just a matter of listening to the presenter, it's also a matter of being able to interact in other languages, French, Spanish, Portuguese, as is often possible. And this also depends on the volunteers that are trained and willing to give their time for remote moderation in the sessions. The sessions I was in yesterday at the WISS had excellent remote moderation, was very good in facilitating both technical and personal problems, facilitating interventions. I don't know if you're seeing these notes. They're not just French, Spanish, English, and the Portuguese, but Malay, Hindi, Urdu, but I think that's a little bit out of our reach for the moment. It depends on volunteers, it depends on us, it depends on you. So let's see what we can do there. Equality of participation is every day being achieved more and more. The WISS yesterday, for the first time, had remote participation, and already, even in the main sessions, invited remote participants to intervene, of course, not inappropriately, not in the middle of a speaker, but when in situ participants were invited to present their comments, remote participants were also invited to present their comments. And equality of participation means just that. It does not mean remote participants should be given priority. It means we should have equality and opportunity to participate. Scale and scalability, another principle that has been mentioned by those who collaborate and by Raquel that came from the Etherpad document. We have to be able to adapt to small meetings like this one, to large meetings like WSIS. Sometimes there are thousands of participants in person and online, as for instance in Baku. These elements are all helped by comprehensive guidelines. If we have guidelines, if we have materials available for training, if we can help each other, we will be able to work with each other better. One of these areas in particular is for remote moderators. If remote moderators need really special abilities, they need the technical ability to feel comfortable with the platform. They need to be cognizant of the themes that are being discussed so they know what are appropriate interventions. They need to be moderators practically because they have to serve as an interface between the in-person panel, the panel moderator, and the online participants. It's not an easy role. With practice and a little bit of orientation, we have found that our volunteers are wonderful. There are amazing people around the world working on this and very generous with their time and energy. Multiple platforms are very helpful because remote participation, e-participation are not just webinars, are not just WebEx. It's an amazing amount of interaction that goes on Twitter. I sometimes pick up what's going on by watching Twitter. Oh, that sounds like a good session, and I'll jump in. It's amazing what information we can trade in a little over 100 characters. Closed captioning. Who would have thought that the Disability Coalition would offer such support to remote participation? But the use of closed captioning for audio, for people who are hearing impaired, has been an enormous help to remote participation. This is an amazing example of the synergy between different groups of voices that need to be heard and need inclusion, because the closed captioning offers remote participants an important way to access when we have audio problems, when we have video problems, when we have bandwidth problems, when we have language problems. You can, grab that text and get it into Google Translator if you're not sure what was being said. Unfortunately, this is quite an investment. I think it's well worthwhile because it gives us a transcript. It gives us later access to the words, to the important exchange of knowledge. But it is not always possible, as for instance today at the WSIS meetings, because it's an expensive investment. So there are a lot of complex things going on that we have to take into account. Now, here I would say we're turning kind of into remote observation because I'm not seeing much going on in the chat window there. I do hope you'll share some of your ideas with us because this is meant to be an interactive session. We want to hear what your experiences are, what you would like to be doing, what you're seeing, what you're not seeing. But in the meantime, I'm going to go into one of my, a few of my own particular themes as I get on my soapbox for my ideas about remote participation. I see that Dee has asked what the comparative cost of captioning is, and I don't have the particular figures at my fingertips right now, but you can imagine that it takes a trained transcriber to be able to hear, interpret, and post the transcript as it's going on. So it is quite an ability to be able to do that, to correct, to catch up. It takes coordination, it takes organization, it takes software. If they have to be on site, it's more expensive because of travel costs. And actually, it's very interesting because it's very often done over Skype. The transcriber is often watching the webcast and transcribing. It's very complex and very interesting. Yes, Dee asks if it might be possible to use software, and there is some amazing software. I don't know if any of you have used Clownfish for your Skype conversations. You can actually type in 2 different languages and get translated into 2 different ones to make it a little easier to converse with someone you don't know or someone you don't share a language with. However, we all know, I think, that automatic translation is not ideal yet, and in something like a meeting of this scope, I'm afraid that machine translation, automatic translation might cause some problems if we don't keep very, very closely in mind that this is not an exact translation. I'd be interested to hear what others have to say about that. Dee's now saying, but an automatic transcription, and I realize, yes, that I did misinterpret that. I was going for translation, and Dee is talking about transcription, and that's very interesting. Dee, we'd have to look more into that. I suspect that the transcribers are assisted in some way by software to be able to keep up, and that's an interesting project. I'd love to see that developed. I wonder if we could get funding for that. Let's follow up on that. That's an excellent idea. Not just machine translation, but automatic transcription. That would be a good step forward. I can't see who said that translation is not always true. This is Angelique. From Guyana, Angelique, or Suriname. But translation is not 100% true. Transcription is not 100% true, but you will find that usually your transcribers are willing to be, are very, very open, very receptive to corrections in the transcript. So the final transcript that is available later for searches or for review are usually corrected, and that's a wonderful ability of the transcribers. You'll see at the top of the screen right now one of my favorite mottos: remote participation, not remote observation. This used to be far more important. There was a time when we definitely only had remote observation, and now we have more and more remote participation. We have meetings open to input around the world to many more voices that were previously unheard. I do think we're making great progress. I do think we have to keep that very present. Another thing that we very often forget is that remote participation, even for a meeting like the WSIS Plus 10 that's going on right now, takes place all year round. It does not take place only during the meeting. These few days of WSIS Plus 10 are showing the results of quite a long process of agenda setting, of preparation, of strategies, of workshop design, and workshop design in particular will set the precedent for how participation will take place. If there's a very good incorporation of the design of the workshop, if the moderator, the workshop moderator, takes into account remote participation, they will invite the participation, they will make sure that we are heard and that there are places prepared for interventions, both from the in situ audience and the remote audience through the remote moderator. Again, remote participation takes many forms. All year round, we may be discussing, we may be preparing statements on mailing lists. We may be doing, elaborating collaborative documents on Google Docs, on Etherpad. We're talking all the time on Skype. We even send messages. We use WhatsApp. There are very, very many forms, and we need to use all of them to make sure that we complement our different inputs, that we can brainstorm, that we can find a more formal way to express our output. So we do need to be flexible. We do need to understand that we have to find the right tool. We have to take responsibility for how we present our participation, and we have to take responsibility for our need to be heard. The people who go to a meeting in person have put a lot of effort into it. They've made arrangements, they've bought tickets, they've gotten babysitters, they've found substitutes for their work and their professional obligations. As remote participants, we also need to take responsibility not only to be present, not only to get up in the middle of the night to watch a session, to load the software, but also to make sure we make an effort to be heard and to let the organizers of a meeting, of a workshop, know that we want to be heard, to know that we're present. If we don't tell them we want to participate, how can they help us? So there is a great responsibility on our part too. We can't expect it to be handed to us. We can't sit back and wait for invitations. We have to be actively working towards offering our participation, offering our knowledge, and offering ways that we want to interact and letting people know what we have. I would like to check here what is going on in the chat. I haven't been able to see it for a moment. Angelique says that she wonders how practical it is to have translations in more than one language in text under a presentation. It distracts, in my opinion. This is Angelique from Suriname. Thank you, Angelique. Ideally, I guess we would have the options for languages so that we wouldn't need to be going back and forth or separating the different languages one from another. Hi, Karen. Nice to see you. I see Karen says, Ginger, just to clarify, is the captioning transcribing the text in the language of the speaker, or does it also include translation at the same time? That's a very interesting point. In an ideal world, Karen, we would have transcription in all the languages as they're being translated. In fact, we usually have transcription in English, which not because it's a better language, not because it's even the most spoken language, but because it's the most common language. It's the most common second language. It's the language that we can most communicate in. So what happens is, since the transcribers probably are proficient in English, they listen to the presenters or to the English translation, and that is what is being presented on the screen in the main room of the main session, and is often available through a link on a website. Now, that's not ideal. It's what we're doing now in the IGF, for example, and what works best given the resources we have. We are all open to ideas. This is very informal. There isn't any main group, but we're doing what we can. Ideas are very, very welcome. I understand Bernard is here. I have not seen his name. Arvin, if you have access to Bernard, could you put him on? I'd like to let you know that we would like to hear from Bernard, who's our tech wizard.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Bernard, go ahead.
Is the sound quality good?
I hear you great.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to jump in, say hi to you guys, and thank you for the great work you're doing. Remote participation is very important, especially that these days traveling and hotels cost a lot. So in my intervention, I'm just going to mention some short statistics about what is happening at the WSIS Plus 10 review at the moment. And I'm very glad that we have 466 people registered to WebEx to attend the sessions. And these registrations come from a total of 1,500 clicks to the website just for remote participation. Okay, so these are only people going to the website trying to figure out remote participation links. And two more figures. One is that we have participants from 70 different countries around the world. And so far, before lunch, these statistics are before lunch. And so far, we had before lunch 7 remote panelists who made a remote intervention via video and audio, including keynote speakers. So I'm very glad because this is the first time we have WSIS Plus 10 on this scale when it comes to WebEx, and I'm very glad that people are able to connect, and also very glad that the problems are very minor. And hopefully in the following sessions we will have also very minor problems. That's it for me. I'd like to ask you if some of you are also joining the WSIS event remotely. And if you face some problems, please let us know by email or by calling us. And that's it. If you have any questions, I still have 2 more minutes so that I can go back and join the guys. So Karen is asking, I tried to register for WSIS Plus 10, I could only see an email. Do you have the link for registration? And I say yes, Karen. In the email that you got from registration, the link is there. You can click on it. Any other questions? I just want also to thank Trader, Karen, Priyanti, yeah, all of you guys. Arvin, thank you very much for welcoming me. And there seems to be a question. I just learned that we haven't. Oh, okay, so this is probably a question for you, Ginger, to answer from Angelic. Okay, so any other questions? Ginger, do you have any comments or anything you want to add?
Arvin, can you hear me? I'm having a little problem interpreting my icons here. I'm hoping you can hear me. Bernard, first of all, congratulations. I know that Bernard has worked wonders at the last minute, and both UNESCO, Abel, and Bernard, the whole tech group have worked magic, literally magic, to get this working. I would like to congratulate you. What's going on is amazing. I saw it yesterday.
Thank you, Ginger. I would like to just also thank Stephanie. And just to answer Karen very quickly, Karen, could you send an email to the email address posted on the website so that we can follow up on your problem? The second thing, Ginger, is that I want to highlight the fact that UNESCO doesn't have much resources. And with the little resources that UNESCO have and that we are employing here, we managed to do this. So this is great. I mean, the team here there are people with no experience at all, and they are managing to do remote participation after the trainings that we gave them. So that's it for me. But please, if you have any, Karen especially, please send us an email. The email address is published online, so we can follow up on your problem. Okay? Thank you, Ginger. I'm out. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Bernard. Remote participation on remote participation. That's great. Thank you very much. And so again, for those of you who don't know, that was Bernard Sadaka. He's doing the technical coordination for the remote participation elements at WISIS Plus 10 in Paris with UNESCO. A great team doing a wonderful job, really quite a strong effort to make sure that all of us that are not able to be in Paris have been able to participate, to watch. There's not much they can do about the time zones. That's a big problem for remote participation. And actually, I congratulate all of you who are adapting. Priyanti, all the way from Sri Lanka. Hi, Pri. Everyone, it does take efforts as well to work through remote participation, but the benefits are well worth the investment. I would like to go back to some of the questions we had here, unless anyone has any particular comments for in response to Bernard. I can confirm that Bernard and the team in Paris are working on any technical glitches that come to their attention, and that we've had great experience with them following up and fixing the problems that we have while we're going on. So that's a great best practices. I'm back to Angelique's point, where she finds that people still are not aware of how to do this and they fear there is no privacy. Well, the internet is not private. I mean, I wouldn't be putting on Twitter anything. I wouldn't draw in graffiti on a wall, and I don't think I would write, you know, in a webinar something that I wasn't ready to see splashed across, you know, the internet. A meeting is a meeting. It's public. I don't know exactly what kind of remote participation privacy problems we're talking about, unless you mean an e-participation, email, Skype conversations, and in every area we do need to watch our privacy, but we also have to use common sense. I mean, we have to watch if you're going to talk at a cocktail party, a diplomat who talks to their neighbor at a cocktail party after too many glasses of wine has to be, you know, worry about being discreet and what's going to be repeated. We have privacy problems in all areas of our life, and we have to take normal, common sense precautions. We have to know how to be discreet. We have to know what to publish and what not to publish. We have to know when to hit send. Meetings are the same. If you're going to stand up in a meeting and make an intervention, you know that's public. The same way you do if you type into the chat box down here on the bottom of our screen. That's going to be public. So privacy is an issue. It's an important issue, but you need to know what your expectations are and hope that there is real transparency, that you know exactly what is going on and where your words will end up. I think that's more important than exactly what is happening, is that you know where those words are going and who's going to read them, and that you be appropriate to the venue that you're speaking in. One of your points there, Angelique, is awareness, and that goes along with transparency, both that the people and tools we work with be transparent, but that we also be aware and educate ourselves about the tools we're using. Looking down for any other questions. I'm wondering if there are any other particular questions or points that you'd like to address. I don't see Vlada online. I'm wondering if Vlada, who is our e-diplomacy coordinator at Diplo, is in Paris on the ground at the meeting. Vlada, I know that Vlada has mentioned that he has not yet seen any serious controversies. Most people, in fact, he says, came for networking and corridor. So remote participation cannot add this element of corridor talks, whether you're participating or overhearing what other people are saying. You're seeing which groups are getting together, civil societies over there, governments are talking in another room, what's going on, what's happening. And yes, it's true, we're missing this element of networking. that Lava is talking about. I have that through Skype. Here we are multi-channeling. I don't know what's going on Twitter, but on Skype I've gotten this message from Lava because I don't see him online. So that might mean that he's in a meeting, or where he is attending, he doesn't have access to the webinar. Normally, Lava would be a great participant for us, and his input is very interesting. How can we deal with that? If we're sitting in a meeting room, we talk to the person next to us. We run out in the corridor and discuss something. Well, part of that we do simulate down in our chat on the bottom right. I'm seeing, you know, several of you talking, not everyone, but then again, not everyone participates, and this is something we need to remember in remote participation. When we're in the room, we're usually listening. We're not everyone is going to get up and speak in a meeting, and not every remote participant is going to get up and speak or make an intervention, nor should there be pressure to do that. One wonderful implementation is this chat, this back talk, this talking to the person next to you, this murmuring that goes on in the audience that we are now doing in the chat, with the bigger advantage that I, as moderator or as hostess, can also participate. But we do have some ways of doing it. Where I find that I miss it is when people walk out of the room to go for a break or go to lunch, and then they just act like we turned off, like we're a machine and we got turned off. I feel a little bit isolated, and I wish there were a way that we could continue to participate and hear those corridor discussions. Does anyone have any comment on that, or any way that they've found to do it? I know that sometimes there will be a Skype chat group going on, a background Skype, a background Twitter, but what other methods are you using? How are you talking to other people? I'm hearing again on Skype, and this is gossip kind of, that Vlada, for instance, was able to pick up some insight into what's going on at the meetings because he overheard a conversation between two major players. There's just a lot of elements and other layers that do go on in person that we don't perceive. But we have some advantages too. I have noticed that if I have a good connection, I can actually watch two sessions at the same time. And if one's not really interesting, I can easily switch to another one. I find that my focus is very good. I find that I can quickly investigate a little more information because I'm online and fill in my background if I'm not catching all the points that a speaker is addressing. So while there are advantages, there are disadvantages to both areas, and we need to adapt and use whatever we can. Has anyone else found another way? What are you, grape wine I'm seeing? I suppose that means grapevine, but I bet the grape wine is more effective in getting communications open. Again, Vlada has said that the UNESCO meeting has light topics, no controversies, and that remote participation does not make up for corridor talks, whether participating or overhearing. But on the other hand, you see Dee's comment that this morning she ended up in her last choice of 4 meetings. If she had been in Paris, she would have missed it. So she likes the serendipity. I'm not sure I want to depend on serendipity, but there's no doubt that if you're there and ready to take advantage of the situation and make the best of it, sometimes we do have better outcomes than we could have possibly planned. All right, Dee is reminding me about the news about Marcus Kummer, and I don't know if all of you know if this is breaking news for anyone, but it is very good news for all of us that Marcus Klumer will be taking over as interim chair of the IGF for starting with the open consultations day after tomorrow. And that's good news because we've all come to appreciate Marcus's expertise as chair, although I must admit that Chingatai has done an amazing job in dividing himself into all the different roles that he's taken on. I see a comment from Steph that social media has made a massive change. I think most of us do not only follow WebEx, but also conversations on social media like Twitter. I'm going to add Skype because I've been conversing here with Skype. Is the one who Steph is the one who sent me Vlada's comments. So we do have to mix. We do have multi-layered elements for remote participation as well. We just have to get to use them. Steph, I don't know, I suppose everyone's reading the participation, but I will read. Steph says, personally, I use WebEx to hear the speakers and Twitter to hear what the participants are saying. That's kind of like the corridor talk. It's what people most want to say. I have to admit that sometimes when I'm preparing a presentation, I think about, all right, what do I want them to tweet out of this? And then I make sure that I have made emphasis on the points that are important to me and that I want to be tweeted. Am I giving my listeners the information they want? Am I making it concise and concrete enough that they could tweet it? I think that some people have lamented Twitter degenerating our conversations to 144 characters, but I think that it's also taught us to be concise and concrete. So we have to take the good with the bad, or emphasize the good and not only the bad. Angelique has pointed out Facebook. I wonder if you use Facebook for e-participation in real time or if it's a reference, but that is certainly a good way to communicate, no doubt. I feel like I'm talking too much. This was meant to be an interactive, dynamic webinar on remote participation. So I'm wondering if anyone else has anything to say. Does anyone have any questions they would like to address about attending the WSIS? Is there anything we can do, any answers we can give you? Stephanie asks, is this the first time for remote participation at a UNESCO event? Or maybe is it the first time that it has been organized on such a large scale? I cannot give a definitive answer to that, Steph. I would be very surprised if it's the first one for UNESCO. I am sure that UNESCO must be using remote participation for many elements. I do believe, I could be wrong, but I do believe this is the first time that WSIS meetings sponsored by UNESCO have had full-scale remote participation. And they put a lot of effort into it, as Bernard said, with very scarce resources. They have been hit as much by the economic crises as the rest of us have. So I do believe it is the first time, and they have adapted very well, as Bernard said, with some glitches. And I know that people have run into problems getting into some rooms more than others, no doubt, although I have had excellent experience with the remote moderation, very experienced and very interactive remote moderators. I'm sure there are some that aren't quite as experienced, but this is how we learn. Dee says, you said at the beginning remote participation is attending together with on-site participation, but surely it can happen by itself. Dee, is that a typo? Do you mean surely it cannot happen by itself? I think that takes a lot of strategy and planning. I don't think it happens by itself. I do not think, okay, I'm seeing that. You mean can. You think it can happen by itself? We are doing it now, Dee, but I don't know if you see Arvin's name up there. Arvin is our webinar wizard, and both Arvin and Steph have put a lot of work into making sure that this webinar works. Steph has coordinated We've worked behind the scenes to get Bernard to stop in and say hello and give us an on-site, Bernard's statistics and insight are always very interesting. I'm in the US right now. Steph is in Malta, Arvin's in Serbia, Bernard is in Paris. So I would say that no, it doesn't happen by itself, Dee. It doesn't. We do have to plan it. We are doing it. Yes, we are, and you are doing it, Dee, from St. Lucia. And Pri from Sri Lanka, and I don't know where Karen is, and people from all over the world. I don't know where Redona is. Tracy's in the Caribbean. We have a very good representation from the Caribbean. Malutin, I believe, is in Serbia or in Geneva. Daisy Ray, I don't know where is. But people from all over the world. Okay, Karen's from Malaysia. Karen, Indonesia, Bali, and the next IGF. So, no, we are not all in the same place, Dee. My point is, yes, we are meeting. And yes, it is happening. And yes, we can make it happen. But we do have to plan. We do have to be determined. Redona, could you explain that to me a little better? And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Redona. What is the opinion? Do you think this happens spontaneously? Do you think that we can just get together the way people might just show up at a venue to watch a soccer game? Because remote hubs are very much like soccer games. Going to a bar or wherever you do to watch a soccer game together with your friends and comment on it is very much like a remote hub for a meeting. And I think maybe there were the TV and soccer games might be the original remote participation and remote hubs. Okay, Redona says, yes, it does take more work. And we can do it. And it's obviously it can be done. It's being done. As Raquel pointed out in her presentation, it's an amazing thing. 62 local hubs went on during the Baku IGF, and thousands of people connected locally. So it can happen, but it does need to be planned, and we do need to have, all of you had to make an effort to get online, to be here with us today. I like your point, Dee. WSIS 10 is not happening spontaneously, not in situ, not on-site, and not online. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes your energy. And now Redona is pointing out, it takes a lot of financial support. The return on investment is amazing. For remote participation, we don't have the carbon footprint. We don't have a lot of the travel expenses. We don't have to pack them. We don't have to wear fancy clothes because all you can see is me from the neck down. So there are many, many advantages, and it is more cost effective, but I don't think remote participation is ever going to entirely replace in situ participation. Yes, Dee, everything that happens takes work. Things don't happen by chance. Being in the right place at the right time, being prepared to take advantage of the coincidences or of the elements that are available to us. I'd like to see, are there any more questions, or should we let you get back to WSIS? Are there any comments or suggestions, things you would like to see included in the principles, points we missed, suggestions, work to be done? If not, I would encourage you all to get back to the WSIS meetings and to get online and work towards the IGF 13, which is going to take place physically in Bali, but is happening in the world. The results happen in the world, the preparations happen in the whole world. We need to work together to do it. So I would say maybe we should get back to work. Any more comments? Yes, I agree, Dee. I believe you can go to the clickable agenda. Let me see if I can find a link here. Okay, there. Thank you very much for the link there. Let's see if it's the same one I have. Yes, I have the same one from D. I see that Steph tells me I have a comment from Rafik, but she doesn't quote it. So, oh, here we go. How did the remote participation working group start? Rafik is answering on Twitter. Actually, Rafik's a great person to ask that question because Rafik worked very hard with us on at the beginning of the remote participation working group before he got caught up in his studies in Japan and his work in Tunisia, which is quite exciting. Rafik, I met Rafik actually in Diplo and have seen him evolve into quite an active policy shaper. The remote participation working group started with some of us who felt we were unheard or did not have the opportunities to participate in person and wanted to be more involved, in my case, with the IGF process from different corners of the world. We do come from a group of online people from the courses, and if we wanted to meet at the IGF and follow the IGF, we had to be able to do it remotely. So it's a group of volunteers. Raquel and I, Marilia Maciel from Brazil, as a matter of fact, quite a group from Latin America of unheard voices with, again, Rafik from Tunisia and Japan, and others I'm sure I'm forgetting to mention. But it is started as and is still a volunteer group, has been supported through with Chengetai, with Marcus Kumar in the IGF, by Bernard, since he was an intern at the IGF Secretariat, and now definitely in his work on tech, with Vlada, with Jovan, who have very generously from Diplo given us backing, administration help, printing and supplies. But to me, the most important thing is it's a group of people who wanted their voices to be heard, who wanted to participate remotely in meetings, and volunteered their time and efforts to make it possible for themselves and others to join into these meetings. Any other comments? Any other suggestions? And if not, I would suggest that you go out, prepare, make your voice heard, get involved, write your presentations, write your contributions, send them out and get them heard. A guideline, you're looking for guidelines on remote participation. There are several sites who have that have guidelines, including the IGF website, the ICANN website, the ITU, the IEF site. I can ask Steph to include in the summary of this webinar some links where you can join us with your comments on the Etherpad document. Katitsa, I'm quite sure that there will be their excellent remote participation for Indonesia. I know that planning has already started. I do not have any of the details. I expect that in the next few days in the open consultation and MAG meeting that these details will be covered and that preparations will be made, because after 62 remote hubs, I think that we've seen that the remote, regional and local input to the IGF meeting are extremely important. What makes the policy, what makes the shaping, what makes the reality from the theory, from the discussions. So it will be a very important part. We will have to follow up, and we will have to, as remote participants, we will have to make sure it happens. There are, Milutin and Priyanti, thank you for that point. Steph, let's make sure we include links to some of the guidelines in the webinar summary. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm feeling like I'm talking too much. So I would like to see you guys get out there and get active and get involved and work with us on improving remote participation, on making our voices heard. And I think that we have Vlada here, so can I ask Arvind to put Vlada on to get a quick insight from On the Spot in Paris? Hi, Vlada. Vlada, are you there?
Hey, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
The link is very weak. The link is very weak, and I was struggling for quite a while to get the connection. If you don't hear me at some point, just type. I hope the type part will be okay. Well, basically, I didn't succeed to follow your discussion, unfortunately, but I'm sure, and I see that it was really inspiring since you're still all there. But briefly, as I think Stephanie already conveyed to you, the UNESCO meeting is mostly focused here on education and educational aspects and cultural aspects of information society and so on. There is a bit about enhanced cooperation of these controversial issues, but my impression is that most of the people that came here did not come really for the meeting per se, but rather for corridor talks and so on. And I had the chance to see a number of meetings around the corridors, European Commission, US, Indonesian organizers, civil society, and so on. This is something that unfortunately remote participation cannot make up for. But with regards to everything else, it seems that I'm quite glad that remote participation worked or is working currently in all the other sessions, and I'm also quite pleased that Diplo was involved in that. Now, I challenge you to think about the remote participation for corridor talks. Can we think of any invention that can help us also discuss corridor talks during such events, even if we are not there? Let's think about it. I don't know. I would stop it here, and then if there are any comments or questions, then I'll try to follow some more discussions on the chat panel.
Thank you very much, Vlada. It's great hearing from you on the spot.
I hope you managed to hear me.
I heard you loud and clear, Vlada. Thank you very much for that quick intervention. We really do appreciate it. And we have just been talking precisely about that. How can we simulate the corridor talk besides our Skype channels, our SMSs, our WhatsApp, and our Twitter? So I guess that's the next step that we're going to work on. Any more comments? Otherwise, I think it's about time for us to close and get back to life. Anyone else? Then I would like to thank you all for joining us today. We had some great people, some great ideas, and I think we've made a great leap forward as we work towards our corridor talks. So I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll be looking forward to the summary. Talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone, guys. Thanks, everyone. Wonderful talking to you.